What's up everybody, it's FYGP, and today I want to show you a video by Col Douglas McGregor, who is a US Army colonel who will tell us about what will happen in Ukraine. Now this map is a bit different from the other maps I showed you. There is obviously less cities under Russian control. Konotop and Shostka aren't, for example. And neither are the cities of, well, Berdyansk is, and Kherson is as well. Melitopol is as well, as you can see. But they don't acknowledge the advances of the Donetsk People's Republic, and they don't even acknowledge that Mariupol has been surrounded by the Russians, which is something that has totally happened. So I don't know about this map. Other maps show basically this right here. As you can see, these are other maps by YouTubers, as well as this right here. This is, I guess, the current map of the Ukraine situation. So LNR and DNR forces have advanced on these front lines as well. And Kiev is close to being cut off from all sides except one. So I guess this is the positioning of the Ukrainian forces. Most of them are located here. But I wanted to talk about Colonel Douglas McGregor, who is one of the only guys in the US military who sees this situation as for what it is. Let's take a listen to him.
Colonel Doug McGregor, a former senior advisor to the Secretary of Defense. Thank you for joining us. Why do you think Putin is doing this? What is his end game?
Well, Vladimir Putin is carrying through on something that he's been warning us about, at least for the last 15 years.
So he's carrying through on something that he has been warning the US about for so many years, and the US simply has not listened. Russia has made clear many times that Ukraine getting closer to NATO and one day possibly being even admitted into NATO would be a grave threat to its national security interests. And nobody has been taking these Russian warnings seriously in the West. So I would say that if you're poking the bear constantly, well, don't expect that he's just gonna, stay asleep and not do anything. So this is largely also, the US is doing. This whole crisis in Ukraine started with the US, and and the US is not, blameless in this entire situation, even though, Russia obviously invaded Ukraine.
Which is that he will not tolerate U.S. forces or their missiles on his borders, much as we would not tolerate Russian troops and missiles in Cuba. And we ignored him, and he finally acted. He was not going to allow Ukraine under any circumstances to join NATO. What's happened now is that the battle in eastern Ukraine is really almost over. All the Ukrainian troops there have been largely surrounded and cut off. You have a concentration down in the southeast of 30 to 40,000 of them.
So he says that right here, the video I showed you before, there's around 30 to 40,000 Ukrainian troops that are basically surrounded because the Russians are going to close off this corridor physically. They have already closed it off with air superiority and with, their advanced missile systems and everything. So, Grad and other rocket launchers that the Russians have. So this is why the Ukrainian army is not retreating towards the Dnieper. It's already too late for them. And actually there are blocking detachments by far-right units, neo-Nazi units, that actually kill commanders which want to retreat from this front. So that is what is happening right now.
And if they don't surrender within the next 24 hours, I suspect that the Russians will ultimately annihilate them. That's why Zelensky is meeting with Putin's representatives right now. The game is over.
So the game is over.
And he's going to have to negotiate the best deal he can get. And we've already told him, the President of the United States has, that if he opts for neutrality for Ukraine, we'll back him. And I think that Vladimir Putin will do that for Western Ukraine. That is the Ukraine beyond the Dnieper River. But behind it in the east, where he is now, I'm not sure what he has planned there, whether he forms another republic, annexes it into Russia, because historically it has been Russian. But the territory west of Ukraine is not. He knows that, and he's happy to live with that as a neutral state.
Okay, so what Douglas McGregor is saying, basically, let me just, go back, new file. Nope, I don't want to save this. So what Douglas McGregor is saying is that, well, if you have Ukraine here, I will just draw it again for everybody of you. So Crimea is Russian, here, right there. Okay, if you have Ukraine here, right? This Ukraine, this Crimea right here. This is Russia. This is Russia as well, obviously. And right here you have Russia, Belarus, and the Baltic states right there. Okay, so what he is saying is that the Russians are going to take everything east of the Dnieper, which would amount to this amount of territory, plus obviously Odessa and Kherson, which are actually west of the Dnieper, but are majority Russian. But what I believe is actually going to happen is that the Russians are going to take everything up to this line, actually. So the cities of Zhytomyr, which is located right here, and Vinnytsia will also be under Russian control. Kiev is right here. So I think that this line is a more realistic one. And this will be this right here, this blue right here, which I'm painting right now. This is actually going to be what is left of the Ukraine, in my estimation. Now, I don't know, come back a year later and tell me if I was right or wrong. This is my estimation of what will be left of Ukraine, while everything east of this will be a new republic, a new country formed by Russia. We will see what name it will get. Maybe it will get the name Novorossiya, which means New Russia, could be. Maybe it will just be East Ukraine, and this will be West Ukraine. It's kind of similar towards East and West Germany. But as far as I see it, basically all of this right here is gonna be under a Russian puppet state. Now Crimea is obviously gonna be Russian still, but all of this right here is gonna be Russian, the way I see it. Now I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong about the military assessment on the front lines. It might be that the Russians are completely losing the war and actually the Ukrainians are gonna win this, but I doubt it. Especially since Col Douglas McGregor, who is from the US Army, is telling you that Ukraine stands no chance and that Putin is going to establish a neutral state right here with a pro-Russian state right here. This is my estimation. Now, Douglas McGregor says that the border is going to be right here on the Dnieper. I doubt that. I think Putin is going to take much more than that. Let me just color this in more that you can see it better. So what Douglas McGregor is saying that is that the border is going to be right here on the Dnieper. At least he thinks that, but I believe actually Putin is going to take much more. He's going to take all of this up to here. So, yeah, let's take a look at Douglas McGregor's assessment.
I am not a military expert. I'm not even an expert on geography, but if he takes Ukraine and Ukraine abuts Poland, then he's going to have a NATO country abutting him. So if that's what he doesn't want, then isn't he going to just have to keep going until he runs out of NATO countries?
What a dumb fucking question by Trey Gowdy. What a dumb question. Now Douglas McGregor is going to answer it for you.
I guess I should say it again. He has no interest in crossing the Dnieper and heading west to the Polish border. I think you're going to find from these negotiations he's quite willing to neutralize that territory on the Austrian or the Finnish model.
Yep.
Right.
So basically what he's talking about, what Douglas McGregor thinks is that this part of Ukraine, which is, well, I should maybe put it in blue, this is going to be left of Ukraine, while everything east of that is going to be Russian, and that Putin has no intention of crossing the Dnieper and actually butting up to Poland, which would be right here. Here is Poland, right? So, yeah, this is the assessment of Douglas McGregor. Now, I believe the Russians are going to actually go up to this line, which is right here, because this actually, everything east of that, everything right here, everything you see right here, that is actually majority Russian speaking. Ukrainian is actually a language that is basically spoken just in this part right here. So, yeah, all of these people right here, they speak Russian. They speak Russian better than they do Ukrainian. They have grown up speaking Russian in the Soviet Union, and after that also when in the 90s, when Ukraine was not that anti-Russian.
Now, Russia already touches Estonia and part of Latvia. White Russia, of course, touches Lithuania. He's not interested in going to war with us, and he has an army that's too small for that purpose. And he knows it. His economy is smaller than that of South Korea's. So this is not something that he's looking for. We are imputing to him things that he does not want to do.
Exactly. The West is basically imputing things on Putin that he does not want to do. He didn't really want to invade Ukraine. If he would have done it, he would have done. If he wanted to, he would have done it much earlier.
In our usual effort to demonize him and his country, we need to remember that Ukraine is fourth from the bottom of 158 countries in the world as corrupt. Russia is perhaps 3 or 4 places above them. This is not the liberal democracy, the shining example that everyone says it is. Far from it. Mr. Zelensky has jailed journalists and his political opposition. I think we need to stay out of it. The American people think we should stay out of it. The Europeans think we should stay out of it. And we should stop shipping weapons and encouraging Ukrainians to die in what is a hopeless endeavor.
So when you say stay out of it, you mean no sanctions, no military aid, just let Russia take the portion of Ukraine they want to take?
No sanctions, no military aid, no nothing. Just let Russia take what they want to take. Listen to his answer. Listen to his answer.
Yes, absolutely. I see no reason why we should fight with the Russians over something that they have been talking about for years. We simply chose to ignore it. And more important, the population there is indistinguishable from their own.
The population there is indistinguishable from the Russian population.
You know, the thing that's so disturbing is that on the one hand, we will not send our forces to fight, but we are urging Ukrainians to die pointlessly in a fight they can't win.
Exactly.
We're going to create a far worse humanitarian disaster than anything you've seen thus far if it doesn't stop.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, so he was obviously cut short there by Trey Gowdy because what he was saying was not fitting the narrative, obviously. He says that, you should let Russia do what they do in order to avoid a wider conflict and wider humanitarian catastrophe than already has happened. Basically, this is what is going on. And a Russian convoy of 60 kilometers, I believe, is heading towards Kiev. So it's game over soon for the Ukrainians, according to the estimation of not me, but a U.S. Army colonel. Yeah, that's what he's saying. So, yeah, this is it for me. This is one of the more realistic assessments I've seen on the U.S. media about the Ukraine invasion. Now, obviously, General Keane right here, he's going to have a completely different assessment. He's going to say Putin is a war criminal. Well, who is George Bush then? Who is, Barack Obama? Who is Donald Trump? Who is, Joe Biden? They're all war criminals. Obviously, Putin is as well. Obviously, all of them are war criminals. So that's just a neutral assessment coming from a guy who doesn't have a particular side. He doesn't want to, who actually just wants the conflict to end. That's me I'm talking about right here. But obviously the propaganda from both sides is quite heavy. So yeah, this is FYGP tuning out. See you guys another time. Stay safe.